are looking at, investigating what I would say are two realities. I'm suggesting there are two realities, really, in very simple terms, in this apparent life that seems to be happening. The first reality is what I would call the natural reality. Wholeness, unalloyed wholeness, simply wholeness, nothing being everything. And that reality can't be described because it can't be known. There isn't anything that can know that reality. It's not something that can be understood and grasped and held and owned. The other reality that we can share together today is what I call the separate reality, the dreamt reality. And the dreamt reality arises when there's an identification. So at a very early age, or even in the womb, there's a sudden sense of having an identity. It arises often at a very early age when the child is simply beingness. There's no sense of an identity, there just is beingness. It's the natural reality. And then something enters that natural reality. It's entered before, but suddenly another person, like the mother or someone, enters that reality, and there's a sudden awareness of another in the whole. And when directly there's an awareness of another in the whole, there's suddenly like a contraction of energy into an identity here. There's a sudden sense that there's someone, that's something in this reality, in this wholeness, and I am now something. Suddenly, those words obviously don't come to a tiny child, but energetically there's a sudden sense of something in here that's separate. And that energy, that contracted energy of being separate and having an identity, grows in the body. And of course, the person that then emerges, the apparent person, the self, the I, that then grows in the world, seems to meet a whole lot of other I's or selves or individuals. And there, more and more, gets confirmed the sense of I am a person, I am a real person, there are other real people, this is a real story, I was born, I'm living, and one day I'll die, so I'm on a journey in time, and the journey is real, I am real, and my sense that I can choose to influence this story of me which is real, that sense that I can influence that story is also real. The difficulty for me is it lives in an artificial reality. This is the separate reality. The difficulty for it is that it thinks that reality is absolutely real. And so it grows up in that sense, and the other thing that it experiences is that everything that it sees out there, like trees and the sky and other people, also seem to be only real. They seem to be objects arising. People, the sky, whatever's happening is an object that's happening to me. It's something that's happening to me. I'm in here, and the world and the sky and feelings and thoughts that arise even in here are something that I am having. They are mine and they are real. And the difficulty with that is, or what's dissatisfying about that is that there's a sense that arises, not for everyone, but for a lot of sensitive people, there's a sense that there's something dissatisfying about being separate, about living in a separate reality in which everything is apart from me. Everything is out there apart from me. I'm here and that's out there. That's dissatisfying. Most people don't recognize that there's anything much wrong with that in any deep sense. So they go on living their lives in that sense of lack without necessarily recognizing it. But everything they do, money, lovers, power, or whatever, everything they do is a sort of way of comforting themselves for a lack that they don't necessarily recognize. Because most people absolutely are sure that they are real, I am real, and they are sure that they can influence their story. And so they live in what I call that dream world. It's a dream. The separate reality of me being real is a dream. People who feel more sensitive want to find out why they feel a lack, there's something missing, so they go to religion or therapy, or they might go to somebody who teaches enlightenment, because the individual is convinced that it has to do it. The individual is convinced that it has to make its life work, and at whatever level that is, be it religious or to do with enlightenment, there's still a conviction that I have to do it. So I have to learn how to become fulfilled. If I can learn how to become fulfilled, one day I, the self, will be fulfilled. So what we're exposing here is the possibility that all of that is just an illusion. The possibility that, first of all, the construct of me is literally that. It's an artificial construct which can collapse, which comes and goes. I mean, every night in deep sleep, there's no one. There's just what is. And then dreaming begins, and the whole, gathering together of me takes place. And then when the me wakes up the next morning, me believes it's stopped dreaming. But in reality, it's in the dream of me, and that me gathers itself together and presents itself to the world. It has to do that, and it learns to do that, and that's the other thing that we can expose, the way in which me takes on roles. It takes on a certain role because it's learned that that's the way it works in the world. That's how it can manipulate in the world and make its life apparently seem better. And the other thing that's interesting is that me takes on two levels of itself. There's the higher self and the lower self. The lower self is interested just in pleasuring itself, but the higher self looks for something better. It might look for a better job, or doing something to help people in the world, or being richer, or whatever. And those who are more sensitive would look for being pure, being still, being silent, being loving, being a good person, helping to save the world. All those roles are attractive to the higher me, but it's still a me. The me's still in this strange dream in which it thinks it can follow a higher calling. And so there are many teachers in the world, teachers of religion and teachers of enlightenment and teachers of therapeutical development. There are many teachers in the world who appeal to that sense in me that it has a higher self. The other thing that teaching does is to confirm something that's held in the psyche as well of me, and that is unworthiness. Because at a very early age, suddenly it seems to me as though it's lost something, though it's been cast out of something that it knew was wonderful. It then grows up with a sense of being unworthy. And any teaching which tells it that it can change or develop or be purer or be quieter is very attractive to me, because it satisfies that sense of not being good enough. So all of that we can talk about together, we can share all those things that seem to go on, and in some way or other, what may become apparent is that the whole construct of me is artificial, and it keeps people imprisoned in the sense that they have to seek something. The other thing that can emerge is that what the seeker is seeking, what the seeker really longs for, has never been lost. What the seeker really longs for is constantly all there is. And the seeker's rushing around in a circle looking for something that already is all there is. And this is a mystery. We're talking about a paradox here. This is a deep paradox. It can't be understood. But in some way or other, what seems to happen is that in some way or other there can be a clearing away or a crumbling of the sense of me through just looking at it. And the other thing that can happen, or does seem to happen, is absolutely beyond words. I said this last night, that essentially the most liberating thing that goes on when people are gathered together with the possibility of there being something that is beyond me, something beyond self-seeking, then there can be an energetic shift out of the contracted sense of being in this body, and that can simply melt back into the whole freedom that is all there is.
And it says, in essence, what is sought is love. Love that is absolute, all-embracing and eternal. It is this overwhelming love that many have glimpsed, and which I attempted to describe in The Open Secret, or walking across a park and then was no more. It wasn't an experience because there was no experiencer. It was a glimpse that no one glimpsed. And then I returned as a someone and tried again and again to rediscover that unconditional love which I would never know. It is that love which is alluded to in literature, music and art. The most fascinating love stories are about unrequited love, because they point to the absolute love which the individual cannot possess. The absolute love that the individual cannot possess. The powerful fascination of falling in love comes out of a primal sense that in that love you could be lost. It is that overwhelming love which is in all of our longing. It is the fullness of the emptiness, the everything and the nothing. It is unconditional love, which also appears as its opposite and embraces that. Wonderfully, it is also that very love which constantly sings to us through our senses and in every part of the aliveness that is happening. Thank you. So that unconditional love is the same as nothing and everything, empty fullness, the formless form. It's all there is. It's just another way of expressing that which can't be known, unconditional love.